Yo, 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 it looks like we are live.
We are live, huh? Wait, hold on. Go. Okay.
All right.
Now we're live.
You got your glasses on?
Yes, sir.
I got mine on too. It looks like we're about getting ready to start it up. We'll
Wait, hold on. I got a question.
What's your
Red pill or blue pill?
Oh man, come on, man. Is that really a question, bro?
You look like Morpheus over there. I guess you'd be asking me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, don't try that over here. Don't try that over here, Caldry. What's going on with you, man?
Just gotta test you. It's a little early, so just gotta make sure you're awake.
Nah, man, you ain't gotta make sure I'm awake. I gotta make sure you're awake. I know it's about 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. It's all types of time zones.
It
And
is.
if you're coming live from the West Coast, much respect because it's like 5 a.m. in your city.
That's pretty nice. Get your coffee. Get your carafe of coffee.
So, Caldry, what's some futuristic news before we get started from your end of the spectrum? I know you have the most futuristic news usually. Got anything you're gonna kick the people off with today?
Well, before we get too deep into this, I wanted to let you guys know the first time I woke up at 5 a.m. in a long time, and God blessed me with $1 on the side of the road. So that was pretty sweet.
How is that futuristic? I guess you're how's that futuristic?
Well, I think it was my future self saying, "All right, Ryan, you're up early. I'm going to leave $1 around here so that okay, maybe every time you wake up, there's going to be $1.
All right,
Find out tomorrow." But I guess in futuristic news, this is coming from Inevitable Human. This is some pretty crazy stuff we're talking about here. This is ethics. This is robot ethics 101 right here.
Bro, we gotta give the people some time before we just jump right into it. You want to just get right to the jugular. You ain't got no puppy and kitten stories for us?
Puppy and kitten. It's all some crazy stuff out there. I mean, you got CRISPR babies. Those are real. You got gene editing babies. This is some pretty crazy stuff out there. Other daily news. Let's see. I don't know. Anything come across your desk?
Well, we got one person in the chat. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. AWS reInvent, it just happened this week. Amazon's potentially going to space. Well, they're not potentially, they're actually going to space.
Yeah.
They're putting the internet into space.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if Elon has a say in it. Elon wants that network all across the world.
That's what I'm pretty much ruminating on. Maybe we'll talk about that next week or something. I still need to do a bit more research as it relates to what exactly is going on there. We've got one person in the chat. We'll start off here. More people will come, I'm sure. I'm actually going to turn off my notifications real fast because I thought I did. Amateur hour. I forgot to hit that button.
Reading those 7 a.m. texts. That's risky.
I don't know, man. My texts are fine, but let's get this going.
Let's go.
So, YouTube, Netflix, algorithms, slaves. Sounds like a lot of clickbait.
A little bit.
a little bit of clickbait. So let's break it down. You want me to take the lead? You want to take the lead? What you thinking?
I think before we get too far into it, let's clear up. When we're talking slaves, this is one person owning another. This isn't racism. This isn't us saying, humans are better than robots. This is just good old fashioned. We own that algorithm. It's it's doing what it has to do for us. So we got to clear the air up a little bit, So yeah,
I hear you. I think, yeah, I can rock with you there. I think the people might think it's a little weird. You're clearing the air, talking about some slaves.
Well, I am white, so gotta make sure we clear the air. I don't want to be taken down tonight.
Oh, you won't be taken down. This ain't taken, and I ain't Liam Neeson, man. I'm just here to talk about YouTube and Netflix and the algorithms that they have enslaved. So let's get to it, right? And for the people that are watching, this is a conversation. Me and Caldry usually have these types of conversations before and after every Quick Theories, and we're just letting you in on that process here, and we kind of want to show you behind the scenes what the thought process is as we start to build out a Quick Theories, and before that theory kind of becomes something that we all can engage with and appreciate, and
it stands the test of time too.
Exactly. So greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. That's from your favorite movie, The Usual Suspects, right?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that quote. I think it's that quote or
I think it's a Bible quote too.
oh, all right. I gotta check out the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah, it's a solid one.
It's a solid one.
Yeah.
Now, many people don't even know artificial intelligence exists in what capacity it does. It's really has no label. It shows up in our everyday lives, whether we are writing an email, we're making a sales call for work, we are
Snapchatting, those face
Snapchatting.
filters,
Yeah, face filters, Instagramming, Facebooking, Netflix.
playlists, music playlists.
Yeah, playlists, Spotify, music discovery, all that good stuff. Even stock trading for some people.
Yep.
And what's interesting about this is you engage with this thing that everyone talks about, everyone knows about, but no one actually sees in their everyday life. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's bamboozling, right? And these companies, the proprietary software, oftentimes is the algorithms, right? It's not, the browser at which you view the website. It's not the colors. I mean, that those are all brandable assets, right? Nonetheless, but the actual experience is oftentimes defined through the algorithms that they kind of deploy. And this is interesting because when you start to look at the specific use cases of Netflix and YouTube, we really start to kind of say, hey, what is this AI?
Yeah,
Take
and I think before we dive into those specific use cases as well, I think when it comes to AI where we are right now, just the nature of the game is that, good design is that AI is kind of hidden. You don't want people really knowing that, this is some math equation that is telling you what YouTube videos to watch or, what music you're going to find interesting. That the nature of the game right now is that, any big tech company, they want to make sure that it's well designed, that the user doesn't have to toil away and mentally kind of come to terms with the fact that math is taking care of their interests. But anyways, to YouTube and Netflix, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, I definitely agree that the user experience is a key component of any of the devices and apps that we use today. When you think about even our own platform, right? Look at the user experience issues that we have to acknowledge and address over time as we just have more users using the inevitable human platform and start to say, hey, this thing isn't working the way it should. And you're like, oh, never really thought about that. And the AI's job is to make sure that everything's seamless and that, the company, whether it's Netflix, Facebook, Google, is able to collect the data from the user and also utilize that data to address business challenges and purposes, right? And when the specific example that we break down in this latest quick theory, we talk about the invisibility of the AI as related to Netflix and YouTube. And I think that the most interesting stats that you have to pull out here is on YouTube, on average, in December of 2017, so almost a year ago, the average user spent 8 hours and 54 minutes. Now, this is in the US, but 8 hours and 54 minutes is a heck of a lot of time, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I don't write in my diary that long. I don't I don't knit that long. It's a long time. I think my numbers are probably even a little bit bigger. This is a nice average. I mean, I probably put in a good 2 hours on YouTube a day. Now I don't go on Instagram or Facebook, so that's not really taking much time from me. But 9 hours, that's a pretty large average, especially when you compare it to a Netflix that everyone kind of associates with binge watching. I'm going to sit down and watch 17 hours of Stranger Things and finish it today.
Totally, totally. And I think I find myself on the same notion as you. I mean, I'm a YouTube premium member. I pay for YouTube. I hate the ads on YouTube. I just kind of want to always get to the latest and greatest content. And I love how YouTube is kind of like a visual Reddit per se, right? You can go down your rabbit hole. You can hear everyone's opinion. And I feel we talk a lot about diversity. And YouTube is one of the few places in the world where you can get almost an unbiased, diverse opinion because you can't really filter what the people or general public is going to say. And that's many of the attributes that Reddit has that I like. And so YouTube is more so that visual, audible Reddit for me per se.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the only problem being that you do it's very easy to get trapped in one side of an opinion or something, you know? I mean, like, especially with conspiracy theories. I think YouTube just started they just started throwing Wikipedia links underneath conspiracy theories
I heard
to
about that.
yeah, to back up claims, you know, just to make sure that people were getting that other side of the story because it's easy to fall down that trap of just hearing one opinion, you know, and then seeing, okay, there's 5 million people who other than me who watch this. There must be some base to this claim. Oh wait, there's another 600 videos with 1 million views on this. There's got to be some base to this claim, you know. So I think when we look at it, I think you're right on the mark that there is there isn't necessarily polish to YouTube content. That's what's beautiful about it, but also dangerous about it. Netflix, you know, they can polish it. It's all about that user experience. YouTube is all about time. You know, let's get that person on there for as long as possible.
Yeah, you know, the watch time. That's their business model. They want you to indulge in the content of creators, and as you indulge in the content of the creators, you can then support the overall YouTube ecosystem.
Hmm.
And the YouTube ecosystem is a fascinating one. We're not going to dive too much into it here, but just the few components that exist there is, I think, the most important one first is not the viewer exactly, it's actually the creator. And watch time is a metric that allows the creator to lean into it and say, hey, if I make this video, or if I produce this live stream, or if I record this vlog, and I get people to jump on the blog, I mean the vlog, and watch the content, they're going to be possibly they're going to make me some money, right? Because I'm going to be able to monetize that content, put some ads on it, and they're going to be able to support the overall YouTube ecosystem because there's going to be people that have suggested videos and other topics and other content that they might find. And guess what? It's almost a meritocracy, right? Where the best content lives and thrives, and you know, you have that suggested algorithm always in the top right hand corner saying, here's the next video, here's the next video, here's the next video. And as the user watches more videos and spends more time on the platform, you then can get to a point where the algorithm just gets so defined in as to that actual user, right? They can
Hmm.
say, hey, this is QuHarrison. QuHarrison likes MKBHD videos. He might like Flossie Carter videos. He might like also this Apple Bite channel. And you're like, oh, okay. Like they're starting to get to know me. And then they start
Yep.
to go even more down that rabbit hole where it's like, okay, MKBHD was just general quality tech videos. Flossie Carter was like the real review. You know, the Apple Bite is starting to get niche on the iPhones. Now it's going to show me this smaller YouTuber who talks about how to use the iPad in your everyday life as a full-fledged computer, right?
Hmm.
And that's the content that allows for the big creator that has millions and tens of millions of hits to thrive, but also give opportunity for the small creators to arise, for the people that might only get 1,000 views, right? Shout
Yep.
out to all the people that are a part of the ecosystem, and in only the best content thrives because the watch time metric, if people aren't spending time watching the video, guess what? YouTube's not going to recommend or suggest it. And,
Hmm.
and and this watch time algorithm is interesting. I know we also are talking about Netflix here, so I don't want to spend too
Yeah.
much time
I
just
think
on.
so I hear you on the creator side. I do think that YouTube has an awesome creator ecosystem, and when they do, and for a creator, when they kind of get over that little hump, and then YouTube gives them that analytics platform where they can, you know, look at all the keywords and all that. The question I have though on the user side is it's very easy for me to define that, you know, help define that algorithm for me. You know, I go and watch basketball videos and chess videos and, you know, Ben Shapiro and, like you said, iPhone videos. Now that's, you know, it's really starting to define it. But how do you reverse that? How do I, you know, for instance, I got into, for a little bit, they call themselves like the intelligence dark web, you know, and it's like this Jordan Peterson dude, Sam Harris, Ben Shapiro. Started watching a bunch of their content. And then one day I kind of realized, I was like, dang, a lot of the stuff they're creating is just bashing, outspoken people, or it's all about them battling another, kind of biased mind. And I got really tired of it. And now, like, my algorithm is littered with that stuff. And even though I've been disliking videos, there's still so much defined there that it's hard for me to reverse that interest, You know what I mean? So I think that's one of those flaws there. Netflix, if I just stop watching a show, it's gonna go away from that recommended channel. Whereas YouTube, there isn't that. You don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, and it's hard. I feel like it's harder to reverse that interest group that shows up under your recommended videos.
I could agree with that. I hear where you're coming from. I think that the business use cases for both entities is a little bit different, right? Where I don't really pay for YouTube. I mean, I pay for YouTube, but the average user doesn't really pay for YouTube. YouTube is oftentimes seen as a free service. And as we know, if something's free, that oftentimes means you or attributes of you are the product. In this case, your attention fuels advertiser insights, and then that becomes the commoditized, and Google sells the advertising, or Alphabet sells the advertising. YouTube puts that on their platform, and the advertisers are happy. The user gets the content for free. The creator gets some money, and life goes on. On Netflix, it's actually kind of the reverse. You do pay for Netflix, right? You do really you pay for Netflix, and the only thing that Netflix has to optimize for is that you're going to pay them again, whether that's in the next month or in the next year, the upcoming year. And how do they do that? You look at the average user, they're spending, as of December 2017, so about a year ago, the average user in the US is spending 3 hours, just about 3 hours on average watching Netflix. That's not even half of what the average user spends on YouTube. Well, one, Netflix is a gated service. Two, Netflix doesn't have, and probably didn't have a year ago, as nearly as many users as YouTube. I mean, YouTube's just, it's 1.5 billion.
Yeah, that's a lot of freaking people.
Yeah, and Netflix, the last time, I think it was 137 million, something like that.
160 or 170. So that's almost 10x.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's super good. So you can make the argument that Netflix's numbers should be higher because, it's movies, an average movie, and there's also TV shows. So the average piece of content that you would ideally be watching is between 30 minutes to 2 hours. The problem there is you only have to really watch 3-4 movies to get your $9.99 or $15 a month worth of Netflix and feel complacent, I would say, right? Like, I don't watch that much Netflix. I watch a little bit of anime here and there, but I'm probably more realistic where in a month I might only spend 3 to 4 hours watching Netflix.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think you're probably a little bit outside of the norm. That I'm sure there's a lot of people like you. I think probably if you look at probably an older generation, I think that's probably what my mom and my dad's behaviors are like. They might watch one night a month. They're gonna sit down and watch 5 hours or something. But for the most part, it might be 30 minutes here and there. I think
to stop you there, one thing that's super interesting about these numbers that I was really intrigued by was, Netflix has kind of like this problem or this conundrum where their users oftentimes share accounts. And when they share their account, it should, in theory, make these numbers appear to be a bit higher than they are, right? Like, think about it. If I'm utilizing, my mom's Netflix account, shouldn't that just be driving her activity up so her average session time is a little bit longer? Where you don't really have that problem with YouTube, because if you have a Google account or a Gmail, which a lot of people do nowadays, you kind of have a YouTube account just by nature of the platform.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I think that I see people on the bus or on the, I guess not driving their cars, hopefully, but you see people watching Netflix on their phone. I don't think you probably quite it's not quite as much as YouTube, but I definitely hear you. I don't understand. That number does seem very low. 3 hours a month average. That seems really freaking low, especially when Facebook is putting up 50 minutes a day, the average user. I mean, that's insane. So I don't know. Nonetheless, I mean, you don't have to look far from your friends or your coworkers to hear people say they're watching a couple hours a night and they're being served good content that they like, and they're going down, I think, like longer term type of rabbit holes. You know, like a rabbit hole on Netflix is, okay, I watched Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and I watched the episode with Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald is one of my favorite comedians. Now I'm like sucked into that whole dynamic that Jerry Seinfeld has created in this show. Now fast forward 3 weeks later, and I'm almost done with all the interviews, you know?
Right.
And there's 5 seasons of it. So I think the Netflix rabbit hole is real just as much as the YouTube, but in a different way. You know, Netflix serves you content. I think YouTube is kind of, that algorithm is really a slave to those keywords. You know, it recognizes a keyword and that is searched 1 million or 10 million times, and it's like, okay, we know that this is a popular thing. This gets people's emotions going or something. We're just going to keep hitting you with that keyword, you know, all day, smack you with it, just nonstop. Netflix is there to serve you. You know, they want to make sure that it's still a good experience. Just because I watched, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, it's not going to show me every single, interview show. It might show me 1 or 2, but it's not going to show me every single one, you know?
Understood entirely. And
I think that's kind of like how it's Netflix is maybe more of that servant servitude type role. And that YouTube algorithm, I mean, that's robotic slavery at its finest.
well, I think to just unearth a few things there, right? So Netflix, the algorithm goes back to our earlier notion of user experience, right? So we said the user experience is super important, and thus the algorithms oftentimes need to have a data collection benefit where they inform the developers and the product team of the product, but they also need to have a commercial benefit where they help, make business and financial goals for the product as well. Yep. And in YouTube's case, that is pretty much true. In Netflix's case, that is also very true. And the way they go about it is a little bit different because of those business models, right? The idiosyncrasies there are oftentimes what create this dialogue of, is the algorithm a slave or a servant? And in this case, I think the algorithm for Netflix is definitely more of a servant. And the attributes of a servant are, it's there to serve you. It's there to appease you. It's there to make sure that you're informed. And if you don't want it to mess with you, it won't mess with you. So
yeah, not get in the way.
Exactly, right? So in Netflix and many of their UIs on many of their different devices, they have this user interface or experience where if you want to search or if you want to go to the exact content that you want, they don't get in the way. They make it very easy. Whereas YouTube, it is the opposite is true. You're always bombarded with what the algorithm wants you to know. And that's in itself.
That's a good point. I mean, I use YouTube as an entertainment platform. So if I just put in 4 hours of work and I'm gonna go eat lunch or something, I will just open YouTube and see what is recommended to me. Now on the flip side, when I do have something I want to search on YouTube, oftentimes I'll go there and one of those first 8 recommended videos, they have 8 chances to catch me. They always catch me in that net, And so that to your point, I mean, I think they don't make it easy to search because of those recommended videos. Because I mean, it's a good tactic they got there. I mean, I usually, if I know I have to search something on YouTube and I don't want to get caught in an hour-long session or something, I will literally just put my arm right up to the screen, cover those recommended videos. I know where they're going to be, so I don't even feel tempted to read them because, yeah, they don't make it easy for you to go to what you want if you're going to get caught in those recommended videos.
Yeah. I'm curious how the YouTube algorithm works when you're not logged in. Because like you said, you have 8 chances to get addicted or get in the rabbit hole. And if they get one of the 8 chances wrong, you kind of missed your opportunity to go down their rabbit hole, and you kind of I think that's a failure for their business goals per se.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very interesting point. We're gonna have to follow up on that and do some more research, because is it based on the IP address, which would be an interesting variable? And in that case, the user would go to YouTube. You're not signed into an account, but because you have this IP address that tells me the geolocation and probably your internet service provider as well, they're going to have some variables to kind of guess off of geographically, and also from what region you're in, what's relevant. So they can kind of give you what's trending in your area and get hyper local and hyper specific if needed.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm not actually certain on how the algorithm works, and I'm sure not anyone, if that's proprietary data nonetheless, but there's probably something out there on the web, or someone's got some insight. So we'll have to come back to that.
Yeah, I mean, nonetheless, it's an interesting comparison between Netflix and YouTube. You know, I don't think that it's right to make the comparison between a YouTube and a Facebook. I don't think it's right to make it with a Instagram, throw it in the mix. They really are this, you know, YouTube is TV. You know, it's TV in the 21st century way. You know, it's TV by the creators. It's not, you know, it's not 21st Century Fox and Warner Brothers owning the TV. It's us. So I think that kind of dynamic between the two, and understanding like this is really the two, if we look to the future of TV and what it's going to be, you know, these are the two opposing views, and how the algorithm fits into these two opposing views of the future of TV is really, really interesting. And I think those comparisons we could probably see in other you know, future industries. You know, even if you probably look at the comparison between, you know, like voice to text in messaging services versus, you know, virtual assistants. You know, how are the algorithms used differently there? Is one of them getting in the way of the user experience? Is one of them making that simpler? You know, kind of that. I think we're going to find the dynamic between that YouTube and Netflix have. That dynamic. I bet that the dynamic in other comparable, you know, kind of competitors, I bet that it's a similar dynamic, you know?
Yeah. In some regards, I see, I like your point where you talked about, you know, voice assistants versus text to speech or dictation.
Yeah, voice to text, yep.
Yeah. Dictation, the whole user experience is around getting it right so that you don't have to press that button, or you don't have to repeat your phrase again, right? The more times you say whatever, like, so if I tell Siri to type, you know, send Carl a text message and say what's up, and she says send John a text message and say that's up, I get frustrated. Thus, I don't want to use Siri anymore. If I talk to Siri and say, book me an appointment for tomorrow at 4 p.m., Siri's not necessarily, she doesn't have to, you know, dictate, she doesn't have to repeat verbatim what I said. So she can hear appointment, 4 p.m., book, and disregard me in that whole sentence and the and in that sentence, because she's really searching for the dialogue and then the intent and the user intent within that dialogue. And there's many ways that one could ask the time. Think about it. You know, you just say, I mean, I might ask Google what the time is right now. You might say, what would you say per se?
Hey, when they put a camera in Google Home, well, I guess they do have like the Echo Show. I'll just go like this to it, you know? I go like that, and that means check your watch. You know, that means check the time.
Yeah, you could do that. I think that, but what would be the verbal what would you say verbally?
What time is it? I think that's pretty singular. I know what you're trying to get at. You know, do the same thing for order a pizza. That's a better. That's something where there's a ton of different ways. You know, I'm hungry. Order me a pizza. Where's the local pizza place? You know, I think there's a little bit more
Variations.
Yeah, variations with that. That was a bad example, I'd say.
Well, I mean, think about it. The way you might say, "What time is it right now?" Or you might say, "Is it?" Or what time is it in Denver, right? Because the AI doesn't always know where you are or what time zone you're referring to specifically, right? So
It
it might
should when you set it up, though.
when you set it up. The whole point of AI is so that the user experience is fluid and that the intent.
Yeah, but when we put the Google Home in our office, I mean, we set it up. You know, it wasn't talking to us through the box. You know,
Right. And you think about in a constant world. I travel a ton, right?
Yep.
Even if I set it up in Wisconsin, I might not be in Wisconsin tomorrow. I might be in Los Angeles. I'm not resetting or recalibrating Google every time, right? And there are different variables and properties, or you might just say or even for alarms, think about that. Like if you tell it to set an alarm at X time, it might ring you at 6 o'clock Central is not the same as 6 o'clock Pacific. And
I'll give you that. Alarms are a little finicky, but I mean, my phone when I went to Indianapolis over Thanksgiving break, just like that, it switched as soon as we crossed that time zone line. You know, so I mean, I think that's a little bit too nitpicky. I hear you on the alarms, but I don't think it's got to be that fluid. We still got to be able to turn a power button on and it knows where it's at.
Yeah, and I think there's just different. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the time is very niche, but I think that I can see the dialogue and in dialects changing when you start to look at different cultures and how they think about time, right? I mean, you got
and that's just getting down to the cultural differences. I mean, that's why Siri like suck in Scotland or Ireland or something because
I've read that. Yeah,
they can't understand the accents or something, or in certain places it's going to be too hard to understand because they've been trained on standard English or something. So I hear you. It's kind of like the huge joke when I came up here to Wisconsin was that all the Wisconsin people call the water fountain a bubbler.
Right.
I'd never heard of that before. Or it's like I called it a freaking water fountain, but for some reason everyone got a kick out of that. I called it a water fountain while all these Wisconsin people were calling it a bubbler. Mm-hmm. Same with like cola and soda or pop and soda. So there's like different dialects, but I think that they train them on a lot of different things too.
Yeah, data is the way you train and condition your algorithmic slave. And with that being said, let's jump into this topic of robots, algorithms, slavery. There's a lot of
that was a long intro, dude. We had a 35-minute intro.
I don't think it was an intro. I think it was more a perspective of just us going through the content and seeing what it, we're just seeing our thought process, explaining it, and now getting to some of the core questions that we arrived to, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't have the answers on this one. I think I'm going to actually kind of end on this notion of, are robots and algorithms our slaves, and should it always be that way? And I can hear this is a paper on the subject that came out in 2010. So we're not the first people to have this thought or theory.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this theory is way more relevant in 2018 than it was in 2010.
Yeah,
more so
1960 when they probably started talking about it.
Yeah, in 1960, Star Trek was out, and you're seeing it as a literary device, right? Where you're seeing, or it's not literary, but as a artistic device, right? Like you're playing with this concept of should robots be slaves? And it's something. It's good sci-fi.
It's like ethics, you know. Do we treat if this robot can do what we can do? Does it have the same rights as us? You know, that's like
Right.
I think that's what it comes down to. And the way that I look at it, man, is like, you know, a calculator is pretty freaking powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does what most people cannot even do given a whole year. You know, they couldn't do some of these calculations that take in a year, but we don't really give it rights. So I think like where we're at right now, there aren't truly intelligent machines that are thinking for themselves. So I don't think that it's any problem for us to call the robots in Amazon's factory slaves or servants. You know, I don't think that that's a wrong connotation. It's the same as like, you know, people refer to ships as her, you know, like, she's a beauty, you know, or their cars, you know, just because we denote them as that doesn't mean that, or connotate them as that doesn't mean that, you know, they should be given rights or anything, or we should, you know, feed them 3 meals and give them breaks. You know, this is what they love to do probably.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point. Is AI sentient, right? And a sentient AI is one that's aware of itself and aware of its conditions and its kind of role in society. And you say that, and that reminds me so much of, you know, Zoe chats. I always think this is one of the more interesting emerging technological trends that we're seeing today, right?
Yep.
Earlier this year, Microsoft released this chatbot known as Zoe, and it's the only AI that they call it's the only AI with what they call friend goals, right?
Yep.
And the whole purpose of Zoe is to befriend you and make you feel as if Zoe's a real person.
Can you zoom in on that feed there?
Zoom in. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, let's do that. There you go. So,
you know, I got tired eyes. It's still early.
Hey man, you gotta step it up. Get some carrots. But look at this. This looks like a regular teenage.
Explain to the people what Zoe is, because you can text into Zoe. You know, people have a lot of funny conversations with Zoe. Explain to the people.
Yeah, so Zoe is a chatbot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a AI. It's not a real person. It's just a chatbot. Yeah. But it's a chatbot that almost feels sentient in many ways, right? You can have a conversation. It looks like a real conversation. They can engage with you.
And it knows what's up in the news and what's kind of going culturally, what's popping, you know?
Yeah. And that's crazy. It's so crazy.
I think that's what's the coolest about it to me is like, you know, the language that it uses is not stoic like most of the chatbots we see. You know, it's a little bit more casual, and it's got a little bit of humor in it too. You know.
Yeah.
I think the humor is more so, you know, you kind of laugh at what a chatbot does. We did one remember the quick theories we did on comedians and AI and how like there was a dude who's using a chatbot similar to like Zoe in his stand-up routine. And the chatbot will literally just kind of say some wild things or just random things in the middle of it. And people laugh at it because it's like, it's so out of the ordinary. You know, we'll be talking about, I don't know, dinner date last night. And next thing you know, it's talking about peanut butter jelly sandwiches and the Matrix, you know?
Yeah. And I've conversed with Zoe. I would argue that Zoe doesn't feel much different than conversing with a human. It would pass like my unofficial Turing test per se.
The Turing test?
Yeah, it's a Turing test.
Yeah, I know. The QU Turing test.
Nah, just a Turing test. I don't want to get in that realm. That's a topic for another hangout. For the people that don't know, the Turing test is the test that was developed a while ago where you converse with the machine. And it's a series of different tests, but the whole goal that it was developed to measure is to express and see if a human can tell if it's talking with a machine. And it's easier to tell, in the earlier days of computer science and when they started the testing. But today, there's definitely, unless you're very skilled at noticing the little things that a machine would do over a human, it's pretty close to fooling oneself.
Yeah, this is what Ex Machina was all about.
Yeah, to an extreme notion, but yes.
I think this is what that's what the people want to hear. I mean, they want to be entertained by the thought of like, all right, we take this chatbot like Zoe and we're putting it in a robotic form, and it's already to the point where you have no idea almost, and so this was a pretty crazy movie. If you've never heard of the Turing test, this is like you diving right into you've never thought about existence, and we're going to throw you right into simulation theory, like I think it's a
it's not, it doesn't really deal with the simulation theory per se.
You're not listening to what I said.
Yeah, it's like if you've never heard of the Turing test, we're going to throw you right into the simulation theory.
No.
What?
I was saying, if you've never heard of the Turing test and this is the first experience you have of it, it's like, oh crap, this shit's already here. If you've never thought about existence and we throw you into the simulation theory, you're like, oh crap, like this is crazy.
Yeah. I think the simulation theory is like, that gets more up there with religion. I think the Turing test is more comparable to, do you believe if dinosaurs existed or not, right? Like, we have dinosaur bones. We have things that can prove that, but you could easily not believe it. And there are people that do. I think believing the simulation theory is more so, it's up there with that in that religion box where you can't disprove or prove the theory. And so, what you believe is what you believe. And in the same ways that people believe in God and what God means to them, you could argue the same is true for the simulation theory.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the shock of this movie is pretty crazy, because to the average person who their only experience with it in this realm is Siri, they're like, oh crap, this is Siri, like kind of like how the movie Her was, it feels really close is what I'm saying. It's a shock.
Yeah. I didn't. I still saw it as sci-fi. I didn't get that react. I didn't have that reaction. I thought it was really good.
A lot of this is your job to know this realm.
But this is like very dramatized, right? Like, it's not. We don't have humanoids. Had we had humanoids,
they got you take Boston Dynamics, you combine it with some of the sex robots out there. Those are pretty realistic looking.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. Right. And I hear you. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, like, it's not an everyday thing. People don't know. I don't think the brand authority of Boston Dynamics is that strong with the contemporary public. Right. That's just, but to your point with the sex machines, I saw this interesting article where they're talking about, should sex machines have rights too? I think, and to your point, right, they do look kind of real. But again, this isn't a reality for most people. This is a reality for people that go and search for these things and try to figure out what's going on here. But to wrap some of this stuff up, I think the main question that we probably are still wondering ourselves is, machines, algorithms, rights, slaves, servants, we kind of see where they are today. Where are they heading? Where is the whole concept of robots' rights headed? And what can we do? Like, what will we do? What's the prediction here? I don't have anything just yet. I think that it's a very, very tough argument, right? Because you can easily make strong opinions on each side. I think the more easier linear route is to say AI and robots are slaves, and you can say that because humans created them, and humans and companies kind of brought them here so that they can help make our lives better. In many ways, that's true today. But when you throw in the concept of understanding why these algorithms exist and how they can go and do things on their own once they get informed, once they become more sentient per se, you really start to have this question of, are we going about this the right way? And I kind of want to end on that note. If you got anything else to contribute there, let's let the people hear it. But
yeah, I think as it's the one thought I want to leave everyone on too is we got a lot of ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, in our lives right now. You know, from the spam filters to the Spotify playlist to what we're talking about here with YouTube and Netflix recommendations. You know, they all have one task. It's like in the same way that a slave might have just one task it has to do. It's a little bit different than you know, the servant route or the serf that is, you know, required to do a lot of different things. So whereas if we're looking at this point in history, I think that's probably how I would define what algorithms and robots fit into society today as. So you know where I stand on it.
All right. Let us know in the comments. Let us know if you're an Inevitable Human member. Reach out to us. You can reply to the email. You can drop by the community. And for those that don't know, let's let them know. You know, if you go to inevitablehuman.com, you can find out about the one and only futuristic newsletter and online support community for future thinkers and futurists. And this is a community that we started building about 30 days ago, and it's grown tremendously since then. We're learning.
Roots going back about 2.5 years, though.
Yeah, I mean, we started doing things that are now a part of IH 2.5 years ago. But yeah, but IH in its truest extent is 30 days old, and it's kind of cool to see the community and see all the future thinkers out there. So if you're an IH member, you know what to do. Spam IH in the chat. I don't think we have anybody on right now per se, but I'm a spam Inevitable Human. And if you know how to do it, Ryan, you can go ahead and do it too. But that's Inevitable Human. Hit us up if you got any questions. Come check us out at inevitablehuman.com. And with that being said, I'm out.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in for 45 minutes. Peace.